This is a tutorial on how to set up your browser, which is the second step of setting up your PC. So first, for the browser selection, there is a few browsers you can use. For example, Firefox, which is the best option for you if you want to have a working browser that isn't, I'd say, stealing your data at a huge scale. There's also Brave. A lot of guys might use it. And Chrome, which most people say is the best browser because it is properly integrated with Google. It's the native browser from Google. However, in my view, Edge is the best browser. We are using Edge right now. So first we'll change the language to our native language. This is, for example, German or English. I like to have it in English to keep my English skills up to date. Next, we're going to the top right here and go into the settings. Now I'll go through all settings, explain them to you. You can skip around. This is so you know does what. First, here you see your profile that is linked to the browser. This will in most cases be your native Microsoft account. I like to keep it that way. Some people like to use multiple profiles if there is multiple users on the PC. You can add a profile by clicking on here. However, as I just said, we won't do it. Next is passwords and autofill. I would keep it as is because I don't like to store my passwords with Microsoft. I have an alternative for that called Bitwarden, which we'll get into later. Next, we have privacy search and services. The track prevention is very important. You can make it strict. However, I'd recommend keeping it balanced because it blocks trackers from sites you haven't visited. However, the sites that you have and where you have allowed it, they'll track you anyway, so you can allow it. Here you see a list of all trackers that are blocked. For example, Reddit, Facebook, ByteDance, which is CapCut, Intercom, and Twitter. And here you can select exceptions for apps where the tracking data is important or which you want to support, because tracking data is sold by data brokers. Next is the clear browsing data button. We don't need that. Same goes for the privacy. It is properly set up on standard. You don't want to help Microsoft improve anything, so leave it turned off. After that, we'll look into security. This is not important. You can turn this off if you don't want to visit sites that are marked as, say, dangerous, for example, where you can get a virus, and so on. The same goes for potentially unwanted apps. And the next thing is website typo protection. This alerts you when an address is mistyped. For example, if you type YouTube wrong, you don't end up on a weird website, but still on YouTube. This is not important. I would turn it off on. HTTPS is to make every connection to the internet properly safe. However, the native features of Edge make most stuff already so safe that you don't need it. For me, it swallows performance, so I don't turn it on. Then next is the scareware blocker. If you are not that native with, I'd say, the internet or computers as a whole, leave it on. However, I turn it off because I don't like Microsoft using AI to detect stuff that I go on. Then you can turn on the DNS if you want. I don't use it. Same goes for the security on the web and the Microsoft Edge Secure Network. Secure Network is interesting for a lot of people. I'll turn it on because getting a VPN for free is always good, but yeah, you don't really need it. There's a lot of other good VPN providers like Proton VPN. They'll just monitor your connections. And next is the appearance. Here you can adjust the page zoom, the home button, the tabs, the favorites bar, and the overall appearance. Some people like it in light mode, some people like it just like they've adjusted their system, which we have done in the previous video. But I like to keep my browser dark at all times, because if I'm sitting at my computer at 3 a.m., I don't want to damage my eyes. Then we'll go into the color. You can select any color you like. I'd suggest using a dark color with dark mode. However, I don't like the gray settings, so I'll use the blue one. The same goes for the image. You can choose whatever you want. For example, ice, desert, or a roundabout. Or no, I think this is no roundabout. It just looked like it. However, we're good to go with this. Maybe choose another image which looks cooler for the start. Something like this cool mountain. After this, we can look into the AI theme generator. This is irrelevant. And this is also irrelevant. This is also irrelevant. It is for browsing the game while playing games. However, it is just bloatware in my opinion. For the page colors, I would turn it to the system. We already talked about this in the last video. These things right here will make the color different. For example, desert will make the contrast higher. Same goes for night sky. I think it looks weird, so we'll keep it off. Or at the system level, if you adjust it in the Microsoft settings, it'll also adjust here. Next is the page zoom. This is the standard page zoom. I like to keep it at 100%, but if you have a very big screen, you can adjust it to a higher number, or with a smaller screen to a smaller number. I have to actually remember that for my laptop, where I have a pretty small screen, so I want to have this also pretty small. But some websites break if you don't have it at 100% because they don't scale properly. The touch mode is not important for us. It is only important if you have a device with a touch screen. For the toolbar, you can also adjust a bunch of stuff. For example, enable workspaces if you use your PC for multiple things. I don't use it. It is like the thing up here. The home button is sometimes important. You can set a home button URL to link to Google, for example, by going onto here and selecting a custom site and going to google.com. However, this is not this page. Same goes for formatting, extensions, the favorites icon. This is, by the way, this right here. You can also enable the split screen button, which makes this a split screen. It is cool if you have to work on one screen and access two websites at once without having to split the whole Edge tab. The history I would always keep on. This is this tab right here. And the apps tab I wouldn't keep on. What I would keep on is the downloads tab, because obviously if you download something, you can view it here. And the screenshot tab is optional. However, I mostly use the native Windows screenshot tool to make screenshots of web pages. Let's just turn it off, and right here you can capture the screen and exit it by pressing escape. Next, we'll go into the default browser. If Edge is not your default browser, you can set it up here. For example, if you have set up Chrome as your default browser, it is a possibility. The rest you can leave turned on. It is not important. After that, we look into the Start, Home and New Tabs page. If we start this, we want to open tabs from the previous session. Otherwise, all of our open tabs close. We can set up custom pages to always open when we open the Edge browser, but this is something that only seniors use. Same goes for this right here. I like to keep all my tabs open from the previous session and just manually close them down if I need to. The home button should either open up a new tab page when you click on here, that a new tab opens up, but we don't need that because we have it set to open a page, which is google.com. I like to have it set up this way because I sometimes use the Google image search option where I can quickly upload a picture, which we don't have up here in this search bar. Also, we can search with the voice or with AI, but we don't actually need it. After that, we can open up new pages with Copilot. I wouldn't use it, and preload your new tab page is cool if you, for example, open up YouTube, are still typing it, and it already loads up. It is consuming some power, I guess, but it is a cool feature. Next, we have the languages. I use English as a preference, but you can also use any other language. For translation, which will pop up here, you can translate, for example, your Chinese supplier's website, but it is not important. And you can also use Copilot. You can leave all of this as is, but it is not that important. After this, we have downloads. You should leave it like this, except if you want your files to download to an external drive, for example. And the same goes for this, to not have to click a bunch of buttons. If you open up a file that you have downloaded in the browser, it is also nice. And this opening up is pretty essential. For example, if something downloads and you don't know that it is downloading, this page pops up and you can stop it anytime. This is basically the feature I use to prevent myself from getting a bunch of viruses when searching and surfing through spaces that are not that safe, I guess. I don't want to say anything weird. After this, we have accessibility. I don't really care about all of this. This is for disabled people. For example, the page colors, high contrast stuff, captions, turning off custom scroll bars if they are, for example, colored. The same goes for the usability, mini menus showing up, and a bunch of more stuff. We don't really need it. It is nice to have in some cases. Please make sure that you leave this on. If you press F11, you can open up the developer tools, which are very nice. For example, if you want to download videos or look at a site source in online tests, it is really helpful sometimes. But that's about it. Next, we can go into the system and performance. There we can leave everything on because when we start our computer, mostly we also want to open up the browser. You can turn this off if you don't use your computer for browsing. I think we can close this because we don't want it running when we close Edge. And if you have I think, NVIDIA graphics card, you can leave this enabled because it makes everything faster. For videos, I would leave this off because, as we see here, it makes them better. But I like to always see the original videos because my own videos are videos I sometimes have to view. After this, you can reset all the settings if you want, and you can manage your extensions here. The AI innovations you can see here, which are not that important, and the About section and updating your browser is also available here. This is all the settings that you need. Now the browser is basically set up, but not quite, because there is something very, very, very important. Extensions. Extensions are the thing that shows up here. Some of you guys might know it as maybe Honey, which gives you sales on products, which is, by the way, a scam. Don't download Honey. Or uBlock Origin. I'll go through the extensions I use, skip the ones that I can't say out loud. And so we'll start with Bitwarden. Bitwarden is very, very, very essential. It is basically a password manager with which you can save passwords, important notes which you don't want anyone to see ever, all of your contacts, all of your save files. And I use it to store basically all of my passwords which are not that important that I write them down on paper. After this we have getCookies.txt. This is nice for downloading the cookies a site has on you, but it is not important for most people since it is only for software engineers. NextLev is interesting for seeing YouTube metrics. Notion Web Clipper is a Notion extension which you don't really need. Honey is something that you can delete basically on standard. All of these extensions right here you don't have. You have to install them one by one. But I would remove it. You can remove this way, by the way, and don't have to fill out this. Now it is removed. PIP, picture in picture, is very nice if you want to view YouTube videos or if you use the online version of Netflix in a little picture on the screen. Return YouTube dislike is something I personally love because YouTube a while back disabled the dislike feature for some reason, I don't know. And you can return it this way since they are still being stored in the backend. Save image as PNG is very nice for people who don't want to handle WebP images or AVIF pictures, especially in video editing where not all the file formats are supported. It is really fucking, no swear words, it's really helpful. Save to Google Drive is also interesting because you can save stuff to Google Drive, obviously. I don't use it that often. Tactic IQ is something I use for meetings to make meeting notes, and uBlock Origin is something everyone should have. It basically blocks the ads you see everywhere online. Not on Microsoft Edge, MSN, on every web page, and even the red app with the white play button in the middle. After this, this is important, and I even have to remove this one, like this. And vidIQ is also nice for YouTube. I can't mention this, and I can also not mention this. Same goes for this, I think. Okay, that's the extensions I use. There is a lot of extensions you can download that are really, really helpful, but I can't say which one you need. There is extensions that make every image to a cat image. There's extensions that make your browser unusable. There's extensions for shopping. There's extensions for every aspect of the internet. Next, we'll go into keyboard shortcuts. Most of this stuff you don't need. It extensions, basically keyboard shortcuts, the extensions use to do stuff. For example, the YouTube, I can't mention it, but enabling here is very useful. Or here, the picture in picture with Alt P, a mini player will appear, and having these keyboard shortcuts makes you not have to click on it. And yeah, by the way, picture in picture doesn't work right now because there is no video anywhere on the web page. That was it. After this, you can also go into the favorites. Here you can store all of your websites. For example, my favorite bar is gigantic, but I can't show it in the video because obviously I don't want you to see all the websites I visit on a regular basis. But what I can do is show you how to add one to your favorites bar. It is by clicking this little star right here. Then you can select a name for it, where it is stored, and you can either remove it, click on done to save these settings, or more to open up a whole browser for all your extensions. I remove it because obviously I don't want to have the Edge / extensions / shortcuts page in my favorites bar. Great. Now we are finished. Maybe we can get this. Here you can adjust page zoom, the home button, the tabs. Oh, this is something interesting. The tabs you can adjust here, how they appear. I like to have it vertical if I work with a lot of vertical tabs. At least I want to try it. You can keep this enabled. It doesn't really affect much. That's it. I think you can adjust the favorites bar here. Leave everything as is. Basically, the home button we already went through, and the page zoom is selected down here. After you have done all of this, your edge should look something like this. You can click on the home button, go to Google, and Google anything. Please like and subscribe. It would really help me out. Goodbye.